Imagine if you woke up one day to find that your city is under the control of a foreign power. This is the reality for the citizens of Avdiivka, Ukraine. In recent weeks, the eastern Ukrainian city of Avdiivka has been the epicenter of a fierce battle. Russia, in its relentless pursuit to capture the city, has suffered significant losses. Around 200 armored vehicles have been lost or damaged in the offensive. This has led to a change in tactics, with a shift from armored vehicle-based assaults to dismounted infantry-based assaults. The city of Avdiivka holds strategic importance. It's not just a city, it's a symbol, a marker on the map that paints a broader picture of the ongoing conflict. Its capture is not only about territory, it's about demonstrating control and capability, but the cost of this control has been high. The fighting has been devastating for both sides, with Ukraine claiming to have killed over 6,000 Russian soldiers. Russia's losses, however, have not been limited to human life. The loss of armored vehicles in such a short span of time is a testament to the intensity of the battle and the resilience of Ukrainian forces. Despite these significant losses, Russia has pushed forward. The assault on Avdiivka has been costly, but it has resulted in some advances for the Russian forces. The stakes are high, and the potential capture of Avdiivka is seen as a valuable political win for Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is keen to demonstrate control and capability ahead of the upcoming presidential election. Now, with Avdiivka under Russian control, the battle may have ended, but the war is far from over. The echoes of the conflict reverberate through the city's scarred streets and the hearts of its people. The question that looms large in the minds of everyone is, what next? Now that Avdiivka is under Russian control, the question on everyone's minds is, what next? With the capture of Avdiivka, Russia has carved a path further west into Ukraine. But what happens if they decide to continue this westward push? As we delve into this question, we should consider the potential cities in the crosshairs of this military maneuver. Cities like Dnipro, Kharkiv, and even the capital, Kiev, could become the next targets. These cities are not just dots on a map, they are bustling urban centers, each with its own strategic importance. Dnipro, for instance, is a key economic hub, housing numerous industries that contribute significantly to Ukraine's economy. Its capture could cripple the country financially. Kharkiv, on the other hand, is a cultural and educational center, home to numerous universities and institutions. Its loss could be a blow to the heart of Ukrainian identity. And then there's Kiev, the capital, the heart of the nation. Its capture would symbolize a complete Russian dominance over Ukraine. But beyond these strategic considerations, there's a human element that cannot be overlooked. These cities are home to millions of Ukrainians who stand to be directly impacted by a further Russian advance. From disruption of daily life to potential casualties, the human cost could be enormous. Yet there's a flip side to this coin. A westward push would not only mean a significant increase in resources and manpower for Russia, but also a potential escalation in international tensions. It would mean stretching their lines of communication and supply even thinner, and potentially exposing their forces to greater risks. Moreover, the international community, already wary of Russia's actions, may take a sterner stance. This could lead to increased sanctions, further isolation, and potentially even military intervention. The stakes are high, and the costs could be severe. A westward push could drastically change the landscape of this conflict, but it would not be without its costs. In war, advancement often comes at a high cost, and for Russia, moving further west in Ukraine could have serious consequences. Imagine a game of chess. Each move is calculated, but every advancement risks a piece, and the loss can be grave. When we apply this to the battlefield, the stakes are exponentially higher. We're not just talking about pawns and rooks, but human lives and costly equipment. Now let's delve into the potential costs that Russia could face if they decide to push further west into Ukraine. Firstly, there's the human cost. The battle for Avdiivka alone has reportedly taken over 6,000 Russian lives. If Russia pushes further west, it's likely that this number will only grow. War is a game where the pieces are people, and every loss is a tragedy. Secondly, the material cost. In the Avdiivka offensive, Russia lost around 200 armored vehicles. That's a significant financial blow, and that's just for one city. If Russia continues to advance, the amount of equipment they could lose is staggering. And then, there's the cost of international backlash. The world is watching, and the further Russia pushes into Ukraine, the more they risk isolating themselves on the global stage. Sanctions, trade restrictions, diplomatic fallout, these are all potential repercussions Russia could face. And these are not just immediate consequences, they could have long-lasting impacts on Russia's economy and international relations. But there's one more cost: often overlooked but equally important: the cost to Russia's reputation. Every move they make, every city they take, shapes how they're perceived by the rest of the world. It's a cost that can't be quantified, but it's a cost nonetheless. The potential costs for Russia are high, but will that be enough to deter them? As Russia continues its assault on Ukraine, the world watches with bated breath. But what could the international response be if Russia decides to move further west? The world has been following the Russian-Ukrainian crisis closely, and the repercussions of this conflict extend far beyond the borders of these two nations. If Russia pushes further into the western territories of Ukraine, there's a possibility of a significant international backlash. The first likely response could be the imposition of harsher sanctions on Russia. Many countries, particularly those in the West, have already imposed economic sanctions on Russia, aiming to cripple its economy and pressure it into withdrawing its forces. If Russia continues to advance, these sanctions could become more severe, targeting vital sectors such as banking, energy, and defense. Military support for Ukraine could also be on the cards. Several countries have already pledged non-lethal aid, but an escalation could potentially provoke a more direct military involvement. The goal? To provide Ukraine with the means to defend itself, to deter further Russian aggression, and to maintain the balance of power in the region. However, this path is fraught with risk. Increased military involvement by other countries could exacerbate the conflict, turning a regional war into a global one. It's a dangerous game of chess, and the world must tread carefully to avoid sparking a larger, more devastating conflict. Furthermore, diplomatic efforts would likely intensify. The international community may seek to bring both parties to the negotiating table to prevent further escalation. Mediation, peace talks, or even the threat of international criminal charges could be employed to persuade Russia to halt its advance. But let's not forget the power of public opinion. Widespread protests and demonstrations could put pressure on governments to act. This collective voice of global citizens could sway the decisions of policymakers and influence the course of the conflict. The international community has a key role to play in this conflict. Their response could determine the course of this war. Despite the challenges they face, the Ukrainian people have shown incredible resilience. But how would they respond to a further westward push by Russia? The spirit of resistance in Ukraine is strong and deeply rooted. As we've seen in the battle for Avdiivka, the Ukrainian military is determined to defend their homeland, despite being outnumbered and outgunned. They've managed to inflict heavy losses on the Russian forces, even as they themselves suffer casualties. Their tactics have evolved, adapting to the reality on the ground. They've learned to use the landscape to their advantage, turning cities into fortresses and rural areas into traps. Civilian response has been equally impressive. Ordinary Ukrainians from all walks of life have risen to the challenge, contributing to the war effort in their own ways. Some have taken up arms, joining local defense units or forming volunteer battalions. Others have turned their homes into makeshift hospitals, their cars into ambulances. Still others provide food and shelter to those displaced by the fighting. But what if Russia were to push further west? Would the resistance intensify? It's likely. The further west Russia goes, the more Ukrainians they will encounter who have not yet felt the full brunt of the war. These people, seeing the devastation visited upon their eastern compatriots, would likely resist with all they have. The potential for guerrilla warfare is high. Ukraine's varied terrain, from its dense forests to its sprawling cities, provides ample opportunity for hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and sabotage. The Ukrainian military and civilians alike have shown that they are willing to engage in such tactics. They understand that in this kind of war, every small victory counts. The Ukrainian resistance is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. It's a reminder that people will fight to protect their homes, their families, their way of life. It's a warning to Russia and to the world that the cost of aggression is high. The Ukrainian people have shown they will not go down without a fight. A westward push by Russia could ignite a fierce resistance. From the outside looking in, it's easy to condemn Russia's actions. But what does this conflict look like from the Russian perspective? To answer this question, we need to delve into the strategic, political, and economic reasons that could potentially drive Russia's westward push. Strategically, capturing more cities west of Ukraine could offer Russia a broader territorial advantage, providing a buffer zone against NATO's eastern expansion. This move could also secure Russia's control over key infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, and resources, which are crucial for maintaining its military supply lines. Politically, the capture of Avdiivka and potential further advances into western Ukraine could be seen as a show of strength and control. As we've discussed earlier, the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, is facing an upcoming presidential election. Demonstrating control and capability in Ukraine could serve to bolster his image domestically, showing the Russian populace that their leader is strong and capable. Economically, Ukraine is a country rich in natural resources, including vast agricultural lands and significant reserves of coal and natural gas. By extending its reach westward, Russia could potentially gain access to these resources, providing a boost to its economy. However, such a move comes with significant risks. The human cost of this conflict has already been staggering, with thousands of soldiers lost on both sides. A westward push could lead to even more casualties, not to mention the potential for increased international condemnation and sanctions. Additionally, there's the question of sustainability. The battle for Avdiivka alone resulted in the loss of nearly 200 armored vehicles for Russia, a significant blow to its military capabilities. Can Russia afford to sustain such losses if it pushes further into Ukraine? Understanding the Russian perspective is crucial to understanding this conflict, but it does not justify the potential human cost. As we look to the future, one thing is clear: nothing is certain. The potential for a westward push by Russia raises many questions and concerns. The battle for Avdiivka has shown us the tenacity and determination of both sides. Russia's relentless pursuit of control, despite significant losses, has been a testament to their strategic objectives. At the same time, Ukraine's resistance, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, has showcased their resolve to defend their homeland. The cost of advancement for Russia has been high. With hundreds of armored vehicles lost and thousands of soldiers fallen, one has to wonder if further westward expansion would be worth the continued expenditure of resources and lives. On the international stage, the reaction has been mixed. Some nations have vehemently condemned Russia's actions, while others have chosen to remain silent or neutral. The potential for further aggression could tip the scales, forcing nations to take a stance, a development that could lead to a significant shift in the global political landscape. In Ukraine, the spirit of resistance remains strong. The potential for further Russian advancement may only serve to galvanize their resolve. Would a westward push result in more fierce resistance from Ukrainians, or would it lead to a breaking point? From Russia's perspective, the capture of Avdiivka is a significant strategic victory. The question is, will they stop here or push further west? The answer might lie in the upcoming Russian presidential elections. The political value of demonstrating control and capability could potentially outweigh the military costs. So, what does the future hold? It's a question no one can answer definitively. Several scenarios could unfold. Russia could consolidate its gains and stop its advancement, or it could push further into Ukraine. The international community could step up its response or remain largely passive. Ukraine could continue its fierce resistance or reach a breaking point. In any case, the implications are significant. Further conflict could lead to more loss of lives and property, destabilizing the region further. It could reshape international alliances and affect global politics. It could also set a precedent for future conflicts, affecting the way nations interact with each other. The future is uncertain and only time will tell what will happen. But one thing is clear: the world is watching and the stakes are high.